Hello students, welcome to our online platform. Myself Engineer PP sir, your physics mentor. So students, today we are going to start with our topic nuclear physics. So nuclear physics and radioactivity. So it's very easy chapter and scoring chapter for our NEET and JEE purpose. So let us start with nuclear physics. So it is clear from its name itself that in nuclear physics we are going to study about nucleus. How many pattern of different activities are going to happen in a nucleus of an atom, and how radioactivity is defined and what is radioactivity. So let us start with what is a nucleus. So nucleus was discovered by scientist Rutherford during his alpha particle experiment. Nuclei are made up of proton and neutrons. If we talk about a nuclei during study of uh, alpha particle experiment, Rutherford explained that whole mass of an atom is concentrated at a certain region which is situated at its center, and this region is known as nucleus. Nucleus contains neutrons and protons. Neutrons and protons are the main constituents of a nucleus. These are combinedly known as nucleons. Clear? So this is the general. Now see, if we talk about number of protons, then number of protons in a nuclei are known as atomic number of an element, are known as atomic number, or you can say proton number, is represented by symbol Z. So let us talk about, if I represent any element X, then it is ZXA. So here Z is atomic number. It can also be known as number of protons. And this A is mass number. It is also known as number of nucleons. Or we can say that it is number of neutrons and protons. So this is the general concept. Nucleus contains two types of particles. So we have seen it, protons and neutrons. It is represented as ZXA, where X denotes the chemical symbol of element, Z atomic number, A is mass number. Now let us talk about neutron. So neutron is a fundamental particle which is essential constituent of all nuclei except that of hydrogen atom. It was discovered by Chadwick. James Chadwick. So James Chadwick discovered neutron particles by his experiments. The charge of neutron. So if we talk about charge of neutron, then it is a neutral particle. Its mass is almost equal to mass of proton, means 1.67 into 10 to the power minus 27 kg. If we talk about spin angular momentum, then its spin angular momentum is 1 upon 2 h upon 2 pi joule into second. Its magnetic moment, so no need to memorize. Its half life around 12 minutes. Penetration power high. In general, we can say that a free neutron outside the nuclei is unstable and decays into proton and electron. So if we talk about any free electron which is lying outside the nuclei, then it immediately decays into proton and an electron. So let us say this is 0 and 1. It is a neutron, it decays into a proton plus electron, means in beta particle, and some particles which are known as antineutrino are emitted spontaneously. Then types. So if we talk about type of neutrons, then neutrons are of two types: slow neutrons and fast neutrons. Both are fully capable of penetrating a nuclei and causing artificial disintegration. So neutrons are basically able to disintegrate any nuclei, which is unstable. So their penetration power is high. Thermal neutrons. So fast neutrons can be converted into slow neutrons by certain materials called moderators. So moderators are basically used to slow down the speed of neutrons, like paraffin, wax, heavy water, graphite. These are used as moderators. These are used to slow down the speed of neutrons. Energy of thermal neutrons is around 0.05 electron volt. So energy of thermal neutrons is around 0.05 electron volt and speed is about 2.2 kilometer per second. This is the speed of thermal electrons. Now see nucleus. So there are different types of nuclei uh, based on number of neutrons, protons. We can classify nucleus into different parts. Like first is isotope. Isotope means atoms of element having same atomic number but different mass number. Means Z is same and A is different. Atomic number is same and mass number is different. Then such type of nuclei are known as isotopes. Like, so you can see examples here. There are three isotopes of hydrogen, 1H1, 1H2, 1H3. There are three isotopes of oxygen, 8O16, 8O17, 8O18. Helium, there are two isotopes, 2He3, 2He4 and so on. So isotopes means same atomic number and different mass numbers. Isobars, so again it is clear from its name itself. Isobar means A is same and Z is different. It means mass number is same but atomic number is different. It means isobars are of different elements. Isobars are of different elements as they have different atomic numbers. So such nuclei are known as isobars. Let us see, like 1s3 and 2he3. So hydrogen and helium both are different elements, but they are isotopes because their mass number are same. They are isobars because their mass numbers are same. Similarly, 6c14 and 7n14. So carbon and nitrogen, these are also isobars. Similarly, oxygen and fluorine, 8O17 and 9F17. These two also are isobars. Then isotones. So in isotones, number of neutrons can be represented as A minus Z. Number of neutrons are same. And both atomic number and mass number are different. A and Z are different, but number of neutrons are same. Then such nuclei are known as isotones. So again we can clearly see 4Be9 and 5B10. So now see, in 4Be9 number of neutrons 5 and in 5B10 number of neutrons 5. So both are having same number of neutrons, hence they are isotones. Similarly in 6C13, 7 and 14. So similarly you can clearly see that their atomic numbers are different, their mass numbers are different, but number of neutrons are similar. So such nuclei are known as isotones. Then mirror nuclei. So in mirror nuclei having same mass number but with the proton number and neutron number different. So proton number and neutron numbers are different. So you can clearly see by these examples, 1s3 and 2he3. 1s3 and 2he3. In first one, see number of neutrons are 2 and here number of neutrons are 1. And these are mirror nuclei. So see proton neutron. In first one protons 1 and in second one protons 2. Similarly number of neutrons in first one 2 and in second one 1. So they are mirror images of each other. That's why they are known as mirror nuclei. Size of nuclei. So again Rutherford explained about the size of nuclei in his experiment, and he explained that size of nuclei is in order of Fermi, means 10 to the power minus 15 meter. In other words, we can say that size of nuclei depends on mass number of an atom. Larger the mass number, larger the size of that nuclei. It means if we talk about, in other words, we can say that this mass number predicts the volume, this mass number predicts the volume of that atom. So volume means 4 pi r cube, or we can say r cube proportional to a, or we can say r proportional to a to the power 1 by 3, a to the power 1 by 3. So if we remove this proportional sign, then a constant is acquired which is r naught, and value of r naught is 1.2 femtometer, or you can say 1.2 Fermi, means 1.2 into 10 to the power minus 15 meter. Now see, heavier nuclei are bigger in size than lighter nuclei. So it is clearly understood, as I told you, that mass number decides the size of a nuclei or of an atom. Larger the mass number, larger the size. So heavier nuclei are bigger in size due to large number of neutrons and protons in nuclei. Nuclear volume. So nuclear volume is denoted by V is equal to 4 by 3 pi r cube. So as I explained you earlier, that volume is directly proportional to mass number. Volume is directly proportional to mass number. Density, again, if we talk about density, then density of any nuclei, either it is lighter or heavier one, density of any nuclei is always constant because it is independent of mass number. It is independent of mass number. Let us see, rho is equal to m upon v. So for any nuclei, if I talk about its mass, then mass is represented as mass of proton multiplied by total number of nucleons. Total number of nucleons divided by volume. So volume 4 by 3 pi r cube. Again, value of r can be placed as r naught into a to the power 1 by 3. So r cube, so it's cube. So here it is r naught by 3 and it is r cube. So it becomes equal to r naught cube into a. So see, it is r naught cube into a. A is cancel out, and we can clearly see that all values are constant here. Mass of proton is constant, 4 by 3 pi is constant, and r naught is also constant. Value of r naught is 1.2 into 10 to the power minus 15 meter. So this is the general concept. So it is clear from here the density of any nuclei, either it is heavier one or lighter one, remains constant, and it is equal to 2.38 into 10 to the power 17 kg per meter cube. So density of any nuclei is going to be constant, which is equal to 2.38 into 10 to the power 17 kg per meter cube. Now see nuclear force. What are nuclear forces? So nuclear forces, simply as it is defined in its name itself, nuclear force means these forces acts in the nuclei of an atom, and in nuclei there are number of neutrons and protons. So we can clearly see that this force tied these neutrons and protons with each other, means it is of attraction nature. One thing is clear, which is that nuclear forces are attractive in nature. Attractive in nature. Another thing, they are independent of charge. They are independent of charge. It means these nuclear forces act between neutron neutron, neutron proton, and proton proton. It means they are independent of charge. Next thing that we can say, that nuclear forces are short range force. So short range force, why? Because this force acts in the nuclei of an atom, and size of nuclei is around 10 to the power minus 15 meter. 10 to the power minus 15 meter. So we can say that nuclear forces are short range force. Then nuclear forces are strongest force in the nature. So nuclear forces are strongest force in the nature because they act in very small distance. If distance is increased, if distance is increased, or if it is taken greater than 10 to the power minus 15 meter, then nuclear forces becomes of repulsive nature. So they are attractive forces and cause stability of a nuclei. These forces are charge independent. So as I told you earlier, that they are independent of charges. They can be acted between neutron neutron, neutron proton, or proton proton. Nuclear forces are non-central forces. So they are not central forces. Nuclear forces are exchange forces. According to scientist Yukawa, the nuclear force between two nucleons is the result of exchange of particles called mesons between the nucleons. So they are exchange forces. It was explained by scientist Yukawa. He explained that these nuclear forces acts between two nucleons is due to exchange of meson particles. Explain of meson particles. So meson, pi mesons. So these pi mesons are of three types: positive pi, negative pi, or zero pi. So these are of three types: positive pi meson, negative pi meson, and neutral. Zero means neutral pi meson. So the force between neutron and proton is due to exchange of charged mesons between them. So see, if we talk about a nuclear force between neutron and proton, then it can clearly seen by these relations. If proton is converted into neutron, then positive pi mesons are released, and if neutron breaks into proton, then negative pi mesons. Means force between nuclear force between neutrons and protons is due to exchange of charged pi mesons. Now see, the force between a pair of neutrons or a pair of protons are the result of exchange of neutral mesons. So if we talk about force between neutron and proton, then it is due to charged pi mesons. And if we talk about force between neutron and proton, then this is the result of neutral pi mesons. So it is clear from itself, P is equal to P dash plus pi naught. Pi 0 means neutral pi meson, and again similarly for neutrons. So this was explained by scientist Yukawa. He explained that these nuclear forces are purely exchange forces. They are produced or they act between neutron proton, or proton due to exchange of pi meson particles. Now see this dog bone analogy. So this is simply for explanation, as I told you earlier, like pi meson particle exchange. Now see, atomic mass unit, AMU. So atomic mass unit is a standard representation of measurement of mass of any nuclei of any substance. The unit in which atomic and nuclear masses are measured is called atomic mass unit. Atomic mass unit is defined based on mass of one atom of carbon 12. So it is represented as 1 upon 12th of mass of 1 612 atom, which is equal to 1.66 into 10 to the power minus 27 kg. It means 1 AMU is equal to 1.66 into 10 to the power minus 27 kg. Masses of electron, proton and neutron. So if we talk about mass of electron, then it is mass of electron is 0.0005. You can round off it 0.00055 U or AMU. Similarly, mass of proton, so mass of proton is 1.007276. Similarly, if we talk about mass of neutron, then it is 1.00865, 1.00865 AMU, and so on. Now see, mass energy equivalence. Mass energy equivalence was given by scientist Einstein. It is E is equal to mc square. E is equal to mc square. He explained that mass and energy are convertible with each other, or we can say interconvertible. It means mass can be converted into energy and energy can be converted into mass. So from here we explain that if mass is 1 AMU, if mass is 1 AMU and c is speed of light in vacuum, then energy is 931 mega electron volt. 931 mega electron volt. That is 1 AMU is equivalent to 931 mega electron volt, or we can say 1 AMU is equal to 931 mega electron volt. So it is very simple. Pair production and pair annihilation. How pairs are produced and how pairs are break. So when an energetic gamma ray photon falls on a heavy substance, it is absorbed by some nucleons, some nuclei of substance, and an electron and a positron are produced. This phenomena is called pair production. So what is that? Whenever if a gamma ray photon falls on heavy substances, then these substances are absorbed, these gamma ray photons are absorbed by some nucleus, and this nucleus produces an electron and an positron. So this is known as pair production. Similarly, how pair annihilation? So this is pair production, gamma photon, 1 beta 0 positron and minus 1 beta 0 electron. This is the pair formation or pair production. The rest mass energy of each of positron and electron is E naught is equal to m naught c square. M naught means mass of electron and c is given to us, so it is 0.51 electron volt. Hence, for pair production, it is essential that energy of gamma ray must be at least twice of 0.51. It means it is making one electron and one positron. So net energy should be 0.51 plus 0.51 means 1.02 mega electron volt. So this much amount of energy is essential for that gamma particle to form pair of electron and positron. If the energy of gamma photon is less than this, then it would cause photoelectric effect or Compton effect on striking the matter. So if energy is less than this, then it will show photoelectric effect or Compton effect, but it will not produce pairs. The converse phenomena, pair annihilation, is also possible. Its converse phenomena is also possible. Whenever an electron and a positron come very close to each other, so whenever an positron and electron come very close to each other, then they annihilate and they combine together, and two gamma photons are produced. So its reverse is also possible, that if an electron and positron combine together, or we can say if they annihilate with each other, then in that situation gamma photons are released. Gamma photons are released, plus 1 beta 0 minus 1 beta 0, gamma photon, two gamma photons are released. Nuclear stability. So nuclear stability, among about 1500 known nucleides, less than 260 are stable. So nuclear stability is basically defined on basis of binding energy per nucleon. It is based on binding energy per nucleon. Now see, here is an important concept. The chemical properties of an atom are governed entirely by number of protons in the nucleus. Chemical properties are governed or defined basis of number of protons in the nuclei, and stability of an atom is defined on both number of protons and number of neutrons. So two factors you have to keep in mind. One is stability. Stability is based on number of protons and number of neutrons in a nuclide. And if we talk about chemical properties, then chemical properties are based on number of protons. For lighter nuclei, the greatest stability is achieved when the number of protons and number of neutrons are approximately equal. So it means if we talk about most stability, then most stability, or you can say greatest stability, is achieved when number of neutrons are equal to number of protons. In that situation, your atom or nuclei is most stable. Heavy nuclei are stable only when they have more neutrons than protons. In heavy nuclei, number of neutrons should be greater than number of protons. Thus, heavy nuclei are neutron rich compared to lighter nuclei. For heavy nuclei, more is the number of protons in the nuclei, greater is the electrical repulsive force between them. Therefore, more neutrons are added to provide the strong attractive forces necessary to keep the nucleus stable, so that nuclear forces can be increased. So it is very much clear that in heavy nuclei, number of protons produce large repulsive electrical forces. So due to repulsive electrical forces, it represents low stability. It means we have to add some neutrons into that, so that it can be more stronger by increasing nuclear forces. Now see, so this is the general theory which is based on what I explained you earlier. Now see, binding energy per nucleon. Binding energy per nucleon. The stability of nucleus is determined by value of its binding energy per nucleon. In general, higher the value of binding energy per nucleon, more is the stability. It means binding energy per nucleon, binding energy per nucleon is directly proportional to stability. Is directly proportional to stability. Higher the binding energy per nucleon, higher the stability of nuclei. Now see, mass defect and binding energy. So mass defect is basically represented by del M. If we talk about mass defect of a nuclei, then there are two type of masses. One is expected mass, and another one is actual mass. This expected mass is also known as calculated mass. Let us say we are given an element ZXA. We are given an element ZXA. In that ZXA, expected mass or calculated mass is equal to mass of nuclei, or you can say mass of nuclides. So here A, N plus Z. So mass of neutron is A minus Z. So its mass plus mass of proton means ZMP. So this is the calculated or expected mass. Similarly, actual mass. So actual mass is measured with the help of mass spectrograph. Actual mass is measured with the help of mass spectrograph, and it is, let us say, capital M. It is, let us say, capital M. And if we are given mass of atom, then we can say that actual mass is mass of atom minus mass of electrons. And let us say that number of electrons are N, so it is NMe, or you can say ZMe. ZMe. Now, mass defect. So mass defect is del M is equal to, expected mass is always greater than actual mass. Expected mass is always greater than actual mass. So mass defect is expected mass minus actual mass. So this is the general calculation of mass defect. So as I told you that it can be given as ZMP plus A minus ZMN. This is calculated mass minus M. M is actual mass. Or you can say ZMP plus ZME plus A minus ZMZ minus M dash. In other words, the mass of a typical nuclei is about 1% less than the sum of masses of nucleons. It means actual mass is almost 1% less than expected mass. Packing fraction. So what is packing fraction? So packing fraction is represented as mass defect per nucleon. Mass defect per nucleon. If I represent it as P or F, then it is del M upon A. Mass defect per nucleon. It is known as packing fraction. Packing fraction also defines stability of a nuclei. Stability of a nuclei. So packing fraction measures the stability of a nuclei. Smaller the value of packing fraction, larger is the stability. Larger is the stability. It means packing fraction is inversely proportional to stability. Packing fraction is inversely proportional to stability. So this is the general concept of mass defect and packing fraction. Now let us talk about binding energy. Binding energy. The neutrons and protons in a stable nuclei are held together by nuclear forces. So simply see, binding energy is what? Let us say if we talk about a nuclei, then nuclei contains neutrons and protons. Neutrons and protons. So if a nuclei has to be constructed, then we require neutrons and protons. It means by providing some amount of energy, the neutrons and protons are combined together to form a nuclei. And that much amount of energy is known as binding energy. In other words, we can say that if by spending some amount of energy, a nuclei is formed by bringing together neutrons and protons, or we can say that if we have to break this nuclei, then we require some amount of energy. So that energy which is required to separate the nucleons of a nuclei is known as binding energy. So in both ways you can define it: during the formation, energy required during the formation, or energy required during the destruction of a nuclei. The binding energy of a nuclei may be defined as energy equivalent to the mass defect of the nuclei. In other words, we can say binding energy is equal to energy equivalent to mass defect of a nuclei. It means del E is equal to del m into c square. Del m into c square. It is the binding energy. This binding energy is in joules because mass is given in kg. Binding energy per nucleon. So binding energy, the average energy required to release a nucleon from the nucleus is called binding energy per nucleon. Average amount of energy released required to release a nucleon. So see, it is again simple: del E upon A. Del E upon A. It is known as binding energy. So binding energy per nucleon is directly proportional to stability of nuclei. We have discussed it earlier. Now let us see binding energy curve. Binding energy curve. So this binding energy curve is plotted between binding energy per nucleon and mass number. Binding energy per nucleon and mass number. So here it is BEPN, binding energy per nucleon, and on x-axis it is mass number. So it is clear from its graph itself that for lighter nuclei, binding energy per nucleon is small, and for middleweight nuclei, this binding energy is maximum. For ferrous, if we talk about for ferrous, then for ferrous binding energy per nucleon is maximum, which is 8.8 mega electron volt. So binding energy of ferrous is maximum 8.8 mega electron volt. It means it is the most stable element. It is the most stable element. Now see again, if mass number is increased, then further after a certain value of mass number, binding energy per nucleon decreases. So what this graph justifies is that these the middleweight nuclei which lies between 30 to 170, 30 to 170 are stable, and nuclei which are having mass number less than 30 or nuclei which are having mass number greater than 170, both are unstable. Both are unstable. So what they do? So these nuclei have a tendency to gain stability. These nuclei have a tendency to gain stability, but how they will get? So if we talk about lighter weight nuclei, then these lighter nuclei have a tendency to combine together to form a middleweight nuclei, because middleweight nuclei are most stable. So what they have tendency? They have a tendency to combine together to form middleweight nuclei to gain stability. So in this process is known as process of fusion. This process of combining together of nuclei is known as process of fusion. And these heavier nuclei have a tendency to break down into middleweight nuclei, because middleweight nuclei, again I will say that these are stable, so they have a tendency to break. It means this process is known as fission. So this is the way by which we explain this binding energy curve. So here all the things are given. Now see, this is the thing which I have explained you earlier. that when a heavy nuclei splits up into lighter nuclei, then binding energy per nucleon of lighter nuclei is more than that of original heavy nuclei, because it is broken into those lighter nuclei to gain stability. So those lighter nuclei are more stable than that heavy nuclei. Thus a large amount of energy is liberated in this process, and this process is known as nuclear fission. We will discuss it later. Similarly, if we talk about fusion process, then in this process also energy is released. Energy is released because lighter nuclei are combined together to form a heavy nuclei, and in this situation binding energy per nucleon increases. So it can be clearly seen, fusion will be in elements of lighter nuclei or low mass number, and fission will be in heavy nuclei. Now see nuclear reactions. So nuclear reactions, the process by which the identity of a nucleus is changed. So nuclear reaction, what does nuclear reactions do? Nuclear reactions simply change the identity of a nuclei, because they form new nuclei and they have new identity. When it is bombarded by an energetic particle is called nuclear reaction. It means that if I say that properties of a nuclei is changed by bombardment of energetic particles, then such reactions are known as nuclear reactions. Such reactions are known as nuclear reactions. Let us see that here we are having a parent nuclei X, and bombardment is done of a particle A. So a compound C is formed, a compound nuclei C is formed. Again it is broken into another particles. Again Y is compound nuclei, product particle is B, and some amount of energy is released. Some amount of energy is released. So this is a nuclear reaction. This is a nuclear reaction. Every time identity of nucleus has been changed. Identity of a nucleus has been changed. Q value or energy of a nuclear reaction. So the energy absorbed or released during nuclear reaction is known as Q value. So if amount of energy is released or it is absorbed, then that much amount of energy is known as Q value. Q value is equal to mass of reactants minus mass of products into C square. So see, energy is simply m into C square. So here how much amount of energy is released? So mass of reactants minus mass of products into C square. Or you can say mass of reactants minus mass of products into AMU. If Q is less than 0, if Q is less than 0, it means this nuclear reaction is of endothermic type. This is of endothermic type. It means energy is being absorbed. Energy is being absorbed. And if Q is greater than 0, then such type of nuclear reaction is known as exothermic. Exothermic means it is going to be emit some amount of energy, or we can say that it is releasing some amount of energy. So some amount of energy is released in such type of reactions. Law of conservation in nuclear reactions. So law of conservation. So first of all, let us talk about conservation of mass number and charge number. Conservation of mass number and charge number. So in the following nuclear reactions, so let us see. Here helium and nitrogen are reacting with each other and they form oxygen and hydrogen. So here mass number A, before the reaction and after the reaction. So before the reaction, total mass number. So total mass number 4 plus 14, 18. And after 17 plus 1, 18. It means mass number is conserved. Similarly, charge number is represented by atomic number. So here atomic number 2 plus 7, 9. And here 8 plus 1, 9. It means mass number is conserved as well as charge number, means which is known as atomic number, which is also conserved. Second one is conservation of momentum. So conservation of momentum, total momentum of reactants is equal to total number of products, total momentum of products. So linear momentum of particles before the reaction, before the reaction means of product of reactants, is equal to total momentum of particles after reaction. In other words, we can say summation P is equal to 0. It means total momentum remains conserved. Then conservation of energy. Again, total energy before the reaction is equal to total energy after the reaction. Term Q is added to balance the total energy of reaction. Term Q, this Q value is also added to balance the reaction. Common nuclear reactions. So what are common nuclear reactions? The nuclear reactions lead to artificial transmutation of nuclei. Rutherford was the first to carry out artificial transmutation of nitrogen to oxygen. Now see, helium and nitrogen are reacting together and they form fluorine. Here again it breaks into oxygen and hydrogen. It is called alpha P. It is called alpha P reaction. Some other nuclear reactions are given as follows. So we can say this is proton neutron, this is proton alpha, this is proton gamma. These are common reactions. Now see, nuclear fission and nuclear fusion. Nuclear fission and nuclear fusion. So nuclear fission, as I told you earlier, fission means heavy nuclei splits into lighter nuclei and some energy is released. Some energy is released. This process is known as nuclear fission. The phenomena of nuclear fission was discovered by scientists Otto Hahn and Strassmann. There were two scientists, Otto Hahn and Strassmann, who discovered phenomena of nuclear fission, and it was explained by Niels Bohr and Wheeler on the basis of liquid drop model of nuclei. So discovered by Otto Hahn and Strassmann and explained by Bohr and Wheeler. Explained by Bohr and Wheeler by liquid drop model of nuclei. Now see, let us talk about fission reaction of uranium-235. Fission reaction of uranium-235. So if neutrons are bombarded on uranium-235, then it breaks into middleweight nuclei. So this is the unstable nuclei, and then this unstable nuclei breaks into two middleweight stable nuclei. One is barium and another one is krypton. And during this fission process, three neutrons are released. Three neutrons are released and some amount of energy. So if we talk about this amount of energy, then this is around 200 mega electron volt. 200 mega electron volt. So if neutrons, if energetic neutrons are bombarded on uranium-235, then it breaks into or it splits into barium and krypton, and it may be in other also, other middleweight nuclei also. But it will release three neutrons within it and some amount of energy. Released amount of energy is around 200 mega electron volt per nucleon. By fission of 92 uranium-235 on an average, so if we talk about average number of neutrons, then maximum number of neutrons are 3 and on an average 2.5 neutrons are released when uranium-235 is fused. These neutrons are called fast neutrons and their energy is about 2 mega electron volt for each. It means these released neutrons are of high energy and their energy is around 2 mega electron volt for each neutron. These fast neutrons can escape from the reaction so as to proceed the chain reactions. Thermal neutrons are used, or we can say that moderators are used to slow down their speeds. Fission of uranium-235 occurs by slow neutrons only. So fission is carried forward by slow neutrons because these fast neutrons can be taken away or can move away from the process. So slow neutrons are required, which are of energy about 1 electron volt. 1 electron volt. Or in other words, we can say that thermal neutrons can also carry forward the chain reactions which have an energy almost equal to 0.025 electron volt. Now see, 50 kg of uranium-235 on fission will release almost 4 into 10 to the power 15 joule of energy. This is equivalent to 20,000 tons of TNT explosion. It means large amount of energy is released during the fission of uranium-235. The nuclear bomb dropped at a Hiroshima had this much explosion power. So, bomb that was exploded in Hiroshima was of this much amount of power. It means around energy of 4 into 10 to the power 15 joule. The mass of the compound nucleus must be greater than the sum of masses of fission products. It means mass of compound should be greater than mass of fission products. The binding energy per nucleon of compound nuclei must be less than that of fission products. So again, binding energy per nucleon should be less than binding energy per nucleon of compound should be less than of fission products. It may be pointed out that it is not necessary that in each fission of uranium the two fragments barium and krypton are formed. So as I told you earlier that it is not necessary that every time whenever uranium fuse then it will produce barium and krypton. It may form other middleweight nuclei also. So there may be any stable isotope of middleweight atoms, any middleweight atoms can be formed. The neutrons released during the fission process are called prompt neutrons. These neutrons which are released are known as prompt neutrons. Most of energy released appears in the form of kinetic energy of fission fragments. So if we talk about energy released during the fission process is in form of kinetic energy. Chain reaction. So if we talk about chain reaction, then in nuclear fission every time 3 neutrons are produced, and on an average if you talk then almost 2.5 neutrons are produced, and these 3 neutrons are responsible to carry forward this chain reaction. Means every time one neutron disintegrates a heavier nuclei and again it releases 3 neutrons. So let us say that this is one neutron which is bombarded on uranium 235 and it again releases 3 neutrons. It releases 3 neutrons and these 3 neutrons again used to bombard on uranium 235 and again each one will release 3 neutrons again. So we can clearly see then in each generation, in first 1 neutron, then 3 neutron, then 9 neutron, then in next generation 27, then in next generation 81 and so on. So here a chain is formed. Here a chain is formed during the disintegration of uranium 235 every time. That's why this nuclear reaction is known as chain reaction. This nuclear reaction is known as chain reaction. If neutrons are slowed down by any method, now see, in the chain reaction, the number of nuclei undergoing fission increases very fast. So the energy produced takes a tremendous magnitude very soon. It means every time new number of neutrons are released and each neutron is producing a large amount of energy. So in this process, a large or you can say tremendous amount of energy is produced which may produce explosion here. So what are the difficulties in chain reactions? So absorption of neutrons. So absorption of neutrons by uranium-238. The major part in natural uranium is the isotope uranium-238. So if we talk about in nature, then uranium-238 is mostly found in nature. The isotopes uranium-235 is very little. It is found that uranium-238 is fissionable with fast neutrons. It is fissionable only with fast neutrons, whereas uranium-235 is fissionable with slow neutrons. So due to the large percentage of uranium-238, there is more possibility of collision of neutrons with uranium-238, and it is found that the neutrons get slowed on colliding with uranium-238. As a result of it, further fission of uranium-238 is not possible. So similar thing is what? That uranium-238 is mostly found in nature. In maximum percentage of uranium isotopes is of uranium-238. It is almost 99%. And if we talk about uranium-235, then its percentage, or you can say its probability of finding in nature, is around 0.7%. It means these uranium-238s is required fast neutrons for chain reactions, and this uranium-235 requires slow neutrons. So here what is given, that more probability of collision of neutrons with uranium-238, because these neutrons, if collide with uranium-238, then they slow down, and if they slow down, then reaction may be stopped. Or further disintegration of nuclei may not occur. So this stops the chain reaction. So this is the one thing, absorption of neutrons by uranium-238, one main reason. Now see its removal. To sustain chain reaction, uranium-235 is separated from the ordinary uranium. Uranium-235 is separated from ordinary uranium, and uranium so obtained is known as enriched uranium. So in this way we can continue chain reaction by separating uranium-235 from rest part of uranium. If neutrons are slowed down by any method to an energy about 0.3 electron volt, then probability of their absorption by uranium-238 becomes very low. It means uranium-238 cannot absorb slow neutrons. So if by any mean energy of these neutrons is decreased, then uranium-238 cannot absorb them, and only uranium-235 will continue the chain reaction. Critical size. The neutrons emitted during fission are very fast and they travel a large distance before slowing down. If the size of fissionable material is small, the neutrons emitted will escape fissionable material before they are slowed down. Hence, chain reaction cannot be sustained. So this is the another reason, critical size. Critical size means that if fast neutrons are there, then they will escape from the that material. And chain reaction will not be sustained. Now its removal. The size of fissionable material should be large enough so that these moving neutrons or these fast neutrons cannot be escaped from that material. So that's it, students. Today we will discuss remaining portion in our next class. So that's it for today. We will meet in next lecture with the remaining portion of this topic. Thank you.